Hi guys, ACGC here. So today I'm here with a Megacolony deck profile because V Clan collection is already released and there's a lot of decks that I actually very interesting to play. Some of them I've tested, some of them are not, and I will just keep playtesting. There's a lot of decks that I actually haven't playtested, so you will see them appear from time to time. Once I get them tested and I adjust them, then I will show you guys as a deck profile. And I will also try to get more 5 videos on those as well, so you can see maybe like before or after the change. So it can be a playtest on ideas, or it can be like actually test run on the final product. So this is one of them, and let's go with it. So for Stunning Vanguard, as long as you use a V era Stunning Vanguard, I don't think you will see any issue right there. And then next I'm running Uragiraffa, which includes 4 of the OG ones and 4 of the reverse one. So let's talk about the OG one first. That when this card attacks the Vanguard, you can counterblast 1, pour a unit into the soul, and your opponents will need to choose 2 cards from hand, call to a Regal Circle rested, and they can stand in the stand phase, and the units being called cannot use their auto effects on call. So it's a very good early pusher, is a first strike target if possible, and if you stay with this card longer, you always have a chance to actually gain crit if you have 2 or more type of Uragiraffa units in your soul. So which is quite important to keep pushing hard while trying to reap your opponent's hand. And for each type of Uragiraffa units in your soul, you get plus 5k. So you get your power boost, you reap your opponent's hand, you stop the auto effects, you gain crit, you just hit them hard. But what about our new reverse? Our only first ever Megacolony Reverse. So the first skill is once per turn, Vanguard Circle, that when this unit attacks the Vanguard, counterblast 1, your opponents will need to call from hand at least one of them, and any number. So it's any number that is 1 or more to the Regal Circle. Those units cannot activate their auto effects, basically on play, same thing. And if the units that being called is less than the grade 3 Uragiraffa units that you have in your soul, you can lock one of your regards and restand this unit. So that means the more Uragiraffa grade 3s you have in soul with this card as a Vanguard, your opponents will need to call a lot more cards as rested on the field to prevent you restanding. That means early games he is not that scary with the restanding skill, but you're still kind of getting at least 1 card from your opponent's hand every single turn. But the units that being called is not stunned, so they call as rested, but they can still restand. Like during the stand phase, you can still stand those units, which to me is okay, but I'm not actually looking at the restanding skill that heavily, more on the second skill, which is another Vanguard skill. During your turn, if your opponents have a regard on place, then you can lock one of your regards. For the turn, your friendly units will all get plus 15k. That is massive, and it's not a once per turn. So if your opponents call 2 units, you can lock 2 of your regards, and your friend will get plus 30k. And this card will just pump to 42, which is pretty big, I think. Right? I have been playtesting a lot with this deck, and I have to say there are chances that I don't even see more than 2 grade 3 Uragiraffas for the whole game. That is a half 8. So the restanding skill might not be that benefiting to me, and that's why my focus switched to actually focusing more on the second skill, pumping a big power, so that your opponents will need to keep drawing cards to card, or they have to let you hit because they just don't want to give you so many resources, which is to me is a win, and so far that is working for me quite well. And then I'm running one of the intruder Caesars because I always want to do more than 3 attacks. Again, I am kind of ignoring that I have a restanding skill. It's good to have, and if able to activate, great. But based on my experience, if you don't have a lot of Great Uragiraffa in Soul in your hand to actually put into Soul, you're just not going to make it happen. So I need to find other ways that making the deck scary, and Intruder Caesars is a good card because he himself can pump to 22k, and restanding a unit step being buffed by your reverse Giraffa, that can be massive. And this card is also a good target for your Great One Giraffa to actually drop to the drop zone to search for your Great 3 Giraffas. So I think it's a good card, still quite key to this deck to help you out to push a little bit more. But I only have space for feeding one. I do want to have myself putting another one, but so far I can't. So you can see how tight the deck actually is. So next, 4 of the Battle Mutant S. This card, when appears in a rear circle, you can Soul Blast 1. Your opponents will need to call one card from the hand as rested, lose their auto effects on plays, and can't stand during the stand phase, but they also get to draw one back, so they don't lose a card, but they might lose something that they want to use and draw into something that they don't want to use. So it's still kind of great, and this will activate your reverse Giraffa skill, being able to lock 1 units and plus 15k for the front row, so quite important for Giraffa Reverse to activate the skill. And this card also have a drop zone active skill once per turn, that if your opponents have no standing regards, you can drop 1 card from the hand, call this card to empty Rigor Circle and Soul Charge 1. So that means you have a chance to Soul Charge your Giraffas, Great 3s into Soul to actually have more Great 3 Giraffa in Soul, but it's gamble. And what this card good is, if you only have cards that you don't want to call, then you can just ditch one and revive this Battle Mutant S to at least Soul Charge 1. And if the Soul Charge card is not a Giraffa that you want, or just not any card that you want, you can Soul Blast that and just annoy your opponent. So this is a good card, and I like it. But one thing you need to care about this card is if you are in a meta with, or like with a locals or tournaments, whatever you're going to play, with a lot of reverse units, this card revival skill will be a pain to you, because all the unlocked cards will be in stand states, and that means you can't activate the drop zone skill. So this is something that you need to be careful. Don't just watch your opponent's board. If they have card standing, make sure you don't try to use the skill, else you might get a warning. Just be careful. And then 4 of the Grade 2 Giraffas. It's a search target for a Grade 1 Giraffa skill to ditch a Grade 2 to get another one. So you can actually ditch this, preparing to revive. And it's also a good power upping source, good drawing source, intercept blocker, unit moving blocker. So it's still a great card as a Grade 2, so I'm still using it. And there are chances that we're still going to stay with OG Giraffa, so having more types of Giraffa in your Soul, meaning it will be bigger and easier to get a crit. And then 2 Mantis as a great researcher, that is key for us to search for these, search for this, search for a Hard Cosmo, search for a Hill Guardian. So I think it's still important, but I prefer to have more space for these, so it's only 2, but so far it's working. And then 3 of the Armor Beetle, which was 3 of the Megacolony. I tested this card, have to say in this build I don't like it. I see a lot of build actually using this card because this card is basically the card to go if you want to put a Grade 3 Giraffa in so accurately, and that is true. again, when I play testing, there are like 90% of my games that I only have one Uragiraffa in hand for riding, and I have nothing else. Or I have another one, and I use this card skill to put it in, and I don't see another one. Then I can game with protect. Also, by doing that, meaning I usually will need to put those Uragiraffa in the front row and attack with them first. And before Intruder ceases, that means I'm attacking with 2 Regards and then going in with my Vanguard. And all the power plus, I can put the Regard because I don't have the restand. So that restricts my move a lot, and I don't like it. So I'm taking 3 of this out for Armor Beetle. Yeah, basically that's the reason. The soul charge is great, but it's great when you can find something to free in the space. Because if you might say, oh, I can just put the Uragiraffa in the back row, right? And play another unit, then I can still like attack with this burst, put a Uragiraffa in, and do all my plays. But that also means the back row units you have is maximum at 2. So are you going to just plus 15k and then hoping for a restand, or you're going to lock 2 for plus 30k and not restanding, right? That's like, again, it's limiting your possible moves. So if you like it, feel free to go with it, but for me, I choose Armor Beetle instead. And what Armor Beetle is good at is killing intercepts, so I don't need to worry about that. Resting units that I want to, and resting my opponent's units, so if they are playing reverse deck, it will be easier for my battle Mutant S to actually come back. And being able to Q intercept, Q boost is great. And the card that I usually rest with is always a Stealth Melee Feat, which is a card that can stun the whole column. Just trying to be annoying as possible because we always want to make our opponents to call cards, and if they see Stealth Melee Feat, they will always need to dodge that column, because if the column is rested, they will just stay rested, right? And you can still bait your opponents to take the hit so that you counter charge, because sometimes we use quite a lot of counter loss. This, and this use counter loss, and this. So having a counter charge source is actually quite important. Seriously. So I still like this pair, and after trying this out, I still prefer this pair. That's all I can tell. And even worse than worse, you lock this card and make it unlock as stand, you lose that skill. But if the power gain is that massive that you need to push through, I think it's still totally worth it. And then 4 of the Great Uragiraffa for you to ride on the search cards, while you trying to stun your opponent's board with more units, you might get a free draw. That's all he does. And counting as one of the Uragiraffa family for your OG Uragiraffa to actually gain power and gain crit. That's all what you need. And then 4 of the high cost moth, because I always want to have a counter charge source, and it's searchable, so it's here. And we don't need to care about this card being rested because you can lock it for Uragiraffa Reverse to gain the 15k, so you don't lose anything, right? And you actually get to block one of your opponent's intercept, and with that there, you basically block 2, which is quite massive already. That's also, to me, the reason why I don't need a Lancer, because I have enough units to actually stop my opponents to have intercepts. And then one of the Brilliant Blister, just in case if I face an XL deck that they just trying to attack me more than 6 times or whatever, then at least I get to try to rest the one that I feel most threatening while I can. And this card can come back to me after boosting, so it's still great, but also having the same problem that if your opponents have standing units, this will not activate, so do be careful. Okay, and going to triggers. 7 crits, 5 draws with 4 draws as a PG, and then 4 Hill Guardians. So it's still basically the same as what I usually play with and most comfortable with. I need some draw power, I need crits mainly to push through, and even though I do want 8, but I think more draw is still making me a lot more comfortable. And 4 Hill Guardians, of course, for any kind of early game pusher. We are doing this job, but we don't like opponents doing the same job. So we do need to survive, and that's why we are running 4 of the Hill Guardians. Yeah. So that's basically the list, and I probably can also tell you some of the lineups that you can actually do with this deck. So most likely, and hopefully, you can go with this into this, right? That's what you always want to have. But there are chances that you will be doing this, or you will be only be doing this, right? If you're doing this, then hopefully you will have your grade 2 and grade 1 in your soul, so that you can at least get plus 10k, and if your opponent is grade 3, you get a crit, right? But if you're going for this, which assume you have 1, your opponents will need to call 1, so that doesn't matter anyway. And then you can try to use this to soul charge and see if you can get 1, and you will try to be annoying like this, and then you call this, rest it, block another intercept, right? And then if you use this, then you can lock this, and from plus 15k. This was 6, so it will be 24, 27, and 30. That's so far is big enough, right? And if your opponent is dodging this, calling on this side, what you can do is to call this for free draw if they have 2 rested units, or even if 1, then once you get into this, you can just soul blast this. Doesn't matter. Or even soul blast a grade 2, so that this can recycle next turn, right? And then you just go swing it, baiting your opponents to at least call 1. If they call 1, lock this, plus another 15k. If they like calling a little bit more, then that's fine as well. Trying to, because if this state you only need to call 1 to actually basically stop the restanding skill, but that's good enough. You get plus 30k to the front row, you stun this column, you rested 1 unit, you block 2 of the intercepts. To me, that's already a win. And if, like, from time to time, if you can maintain this board, and you write another one, right? So now you have 2, and you still do this, like putting this back to the deck, right? And then you do this one, and kind of last one. Now they need to call 2, right? And if they call 1, lock 15k, lock, withstand. If they call 2, then even more simple. Lock, lock, and plus 30k. And this one is rested for this 2 plus 6. So you just keep doing the same play. That's already annoying, right? And like eventually, if they just say, okay, this rested, this attacks, I am just going to put 1 down. Fine. Lock run, restand, lock 1, plus 15k, right? And this is still rested, of course. This is still annoying, right? And you might see 27k is kind of low, but if you are playing Uragiraffa, it's basically kind of the same part. Or if you like actually don't see that if you really want more power, then you might need to use this to bait another one. So, which means if this one goes to the drop zone and this one uses skill, and you ditch one card, say they have all units rested and you use this, soul charge one, whatever, and soul blast one back, and they call one, you lock one, plus 15k, right? And then you swing, they have to call two, and if they only call one, lock one to restand, and now you can also get to actually lock this card to plus also 15k. So your front row will get 30k, so this will be 39, this will be this will still be standing because they only call one, this will be 42 restanding, and this will be 45. Even though you lose this skill, but you are doing 4 punches with big numbers. I think that's still important, right? So by having the flexibility to lock whatever you want and being able to actually swing with your Vanguard first, to me is actually quite big. Not sure if you feel the same, but to me that's really important, because what in the past is like that, right? So say I still have this and I have this, so what I need to do is to try find one out, play this, and say if I have the same thing, right? That doesn't matter. Now what can you do? You probably will swing with this first, right? But that can be stopped, and you're trying to block intercepts, but you haven't attacked yet, which means your opponent can just say, okay, 2 grade 2s, 10k block, done, right? And then this attacks, right? Say you boost, or if you don't have boost, doesn't matter. And then you put this into your soul, right? And now you're counting your opponent's resting units. Now they are already intercepts, so you lose 2 units, and then for the rest of the turn they can't intercept, doesn't matter, they don't care, and they block it, right? Say they block it, and now you swing with this, and you force them to call one at least. Say they call one, then you lock one. Or say if you have 2 like this and they call one, right? Then you probably can lock another one to plus 15k, lock another one to withstand, right? Yes, you still get to plus 30k and withstand, but if they call enough, you will be rested, and what they need to do is just drop a PG. And whatever triggers you have, you can only apply to your Vanguard, because you don't have your intruder diseases in your drop zone. Assume it's not, then it's kind of a waste, right? With the same thing happening with what I just said with this, you get to attack first, and you get to plus the power to somewhere else, and this Vanguard attack is a lot more threatening even if they drop a PG, right? And what if you really have intruder diseases, right? Because if you are using this, they block all that, only do 3 attacks, and this stays in the drop zone. If you have this, dropped it, you at least can try to bait, right? You can try to bait for a 30k and see if they block it. And if they take it, then of course you can go for this. If they just don't do anything, then you can just use a Vanguard attack to bait them. Even though if they take the hit, you bring this back, you can't withstand a unit, right? But that doesn't matter. You still gain an extra attack. That is already massive compared to using Lancer, that you're limiting your move. Your opponents will just block all them unless they can't. But if they can't, you're already winning, right? So trying to be annoying as possible, trying to generate benefits more in a better way. That's why I come up with keeping these while playing with the new units and trying to be annoying as possible, and still enjoy the high power attack, still having a chance to restand. And this way I actually think I can win more games compared to having this. And again, if you have this and you don't have a Great Uragiraffa, you are in trouble and you can't stop that. So like if you have this on the field, you don't have any Great Uragiraffa, what are you going to do? Are you going to put some whatever regards in there? Then you can only lock 2. Is that what you want? Right? So I hope this helps to like let you think in a different way in playing the deck and see if that fits you. Yeah, so do let me know if you have any questions. I always love to see questions and discussion with my viewers, so do so. Let me know your thoughts and we can go over this. Yeah, so also like this video if you like this deck profile, if you like this idea. Subscribe for more channels. I might have another build for Giraffa. I might go into premium later and find some interesting build if I can. Yeah, basically like, subscribe and share, and comment. Then I will see you guys in the next video. Signing off.